So within the vet sector, we look at any opportunities to holistically assess and deliver units of competency. And another term for integrating this assessment is called clustering. So what we do is we're looking at meeting the requirements of groups of units rather than individual units. And what do we cluster, or what do we look at from a group of units point of view? Well, we can do this when we deliver, we can do it when we assess, or we can do it when we deliver and assess. So the steps that we take to integrate for assessment or to cluster these units is we're looking at common unit descriptors. So if we just take a minute to have a look at the checklist that we've worked through recently, this is the Make a Presentation checklist, you can see that there's some mapping to other units of competency within what we call at Evoke a module. So a module is a cluster of units. So here you can see we've got the TAE DEL, another one TAE DEL. So the DEL, as you know, under the coding, is part of a delivery task. So I have actually grouped together the 3 different delivery units plus the one on Make a Presentation and formed that into a module or a cluster of units. And then when you've broken those down and looked at all of the requirements individually within those units, I've been able to map through and find that, for example, in 402A, performance criterion 2.2 and 2.3 refers to accessing training resources. So does element 1 in 401A. So does element 1 in both of these units. So what we've been able to do to be able to holistically assess the access training resources task, we can map 4 different times it's appeared over 4 different units. So who wants to keep repeating 4 times the same process? Once we've seen that the candidate can competently perform the task, we're better off mapping against each of those performance criterion and making it nice and efficient. So you can see here we've done the mapping and we've only checked once in our observation that that has occurred for each time that they've performed the task. So the steps. You look for the common unit descriptors, and usually they'll be within the code or within the unit descriptor name. And then once you've grouped temporarily a couple of units together, or a few, maybe 3 to 4, then you look at the evidence guide for each one. So we're looking at the critical aspects and you're making sure that there's some common pieces of evidence that's required. Okay, so once we've got that, then you start individually mapping each unit. So you take one lead unit that you pick and you work out all of your assessment pieces from that, and you start your delivery component from that. And then you start looking at your satellite units, and then you can see what you've already covered for accessing a unit, and you can say referring to that master unit. So when we get to our webcast, you'll actually have access to a small amount of Evoke mapping. The mapping documents are the bread and butter of the trainers and assessors, or the RTOs. So that's where all of the background time and effort goes in. That's where the value is. So it's not something that an RTO and a trainer and assessor is going to share very openly. And it does take a lot of time to develop. So as a new trainer and assessor, you would work under a supervisor, you would work for an RTO who has pre-purchased training packages, and this type of mapping will probably be done for you. You've had a little bit of experience in ticking off the evidence that you've mapped for an individual unit, and this is just a bit of an appreciation of what you've probably started to observe where we've been integrating those assessments holistically as modules. It's really just to appreciate that broader picture at a Certificate 4 level.